Okay, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-ikhlas fil qawli wal amal. Allahumma taqabbal minna innaka antas sami'ul alim wa tub alayna innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to everybody who is joining us for today's session. May Allah allow us to reach the end of Ramadan. We were just talking about how we're already, most of Ramadan is now past. We're about to enter the last 10 nights. May Allah allow us to reach those last 10 nights, and may Allah allow us to benefit and come out of those 10 nights and reach the end of them so that we are forgiven our past sins. Ameen. Okay, let's make start on ayah number 12. So we started ayah number 12 yesterday. So this is the part of the ayah that we did yesterday. And today we are going to complete the ayah, inshallah. So let me bring up this part first. And let me just move this. Right, okay. So we start off with the isti'adha and the basmala as usual. So Auntie Nasreen, if you'd like to join me for this one. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Okay, so your ta, Auntie, when you think about the ta can be heavier because remember, it's not that you're just saying it like you are reading it heavy, but I'm not hearing the itbaq, the extra heaviness it needs to have. So remember we said about that, it's all about the direction of the sound of your voice. So instead of, you can try to direct the sound of your voice when you say the ta, as though you are ta, as though you're going towards, remember the, we have the middle of the upper palate. So, show you like that. Straight to the middle, so there. Okay, try to direct your voice to the middle, okay, of the upper palate. That should do it, inshallah. So let's try that again. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Better. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
If you could say, Auntie, for me, الرا.
الرا.
Now, I want you to finish الرا. I'm going to say, sorry, I want you to say الراح.
الراح.
Yes. Now we'll try that again. Say say it slowly if you need to. الرحمن الرحيم.
الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن الرحيم.
Yeah, the last one.
رحيم.
Yeah, it's more the first one, Auntie. الرا الراح الراح. Try that again.
الرح.
Yes, this is good. الرحمن.
الرحمن.
Yes, the slower you read it, Auntie, you're better when you say it more slowly, because the first one was even better than this one. So just try to keep that, practicing that way, because that seems to be working. Ar-ra first, ar-rah slowly, and then just keep up the slow pace and put it into the word, inshallah. Okay, Jazakumullah khairan, Allah bless you. Okay, so we start off with the first word here. Let me just find my pen. There it is. Sometimes it's difficult to see. Okay, we have here ayuhibbu. Ayuhibbu. The ha here is joint with the ba. Be careful. Now you've got a dhamma followed by a kasra. Okay. Remember, for the dhamma, for the pish, we have to circle the lips. For the kasra or the zir, we have to make the clear e sound. So it's just making sure that you give that due attention there, and you finish the u in the dhamma, and then you move on to the clear e sound. Ayuhibbu. Ayuhibbu. Okay. The ha, when you join it with the ba, I have mentioned this a few times, where if you have a letter that has this shadda on it, and you have and it is a muqalqal letter, it's a letter that has qalqala, then we do not pronounce the qalqala. Okay, so you don't actually you don't say ayuhibbu, ayuhib. You don't say ayuhibbu. It's ayuhibbu. You go to the articulation point. You go to the makhraj only once. You go into it ayuhib. And then when you are going to let go of the makhraj, that is when you are going to pronounce the dhamma. Okay, so let's try that, Auntie. Ayuhibbu.
Ayuhibbu.
Yes, your hamza, Auntie, can be a little bit lighter. Ayuhibbu.
Ayuhibbu.
Yes, I like your ba at the end. Good, that's become lighter as well. Jazakumullah khairan. Then we have the word ahadukum. Aha. Now here we've got two throat letters next to each other. We want to make sure we get this right. So hamza we know is from the bottom of the throat. If you go back to that, remember that crisscross diagram that I did and the top, middle, bottom? From the bottom was the hamza and the ha, right? Hamza and the ha. And from the middle was the ha. I'm only going to go that far today. I'm not going to fill it in. So we've got hamza and ha. So the hamza is from the bottom of the throat. So this is the relaxed right? But then for the second letter, when we go on to the ha, you'll notice what we're doing is we're moving up in the throat. Okay, so we don't stay in the same level. Where you're pronouncing from, you're not going to stay there and then say aha, for example, because then you end up pronouncing the wrong ha. You'll end up pronouncing this one. Okay, or you'll end up sort of doing a mixed version. You'll end up doing like a ha and a ha. That's quite common as well. So here you've got to feel that you start off very relaxed and then you're going to move up a bit in the throat and you should feel a squeeze. Aha, 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 aha. So after saying that one count, you then go into a light dal. Ahadukum, ahadukum. Okay, let's try this, Sister Humaira. Let's start from the beginning. Ayuhibbu ahadukum.
Ayuhibbu ahadukum.
Very nice, mashallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Good, alhamdulillah. It's just the hamza, but we already know about that and we are working on that, inshallah. So, inshallah, whenever Allah has written, then the doors of the correct pronunciation of the hamza will open for you. And I ask Allah that He makes that happen for you very, very quickly, especially in this month, in this blessed month where Allah's blessings are raining down on us. May Allah make one of those blessings be for you, inshallah.
Ameen.
No, inshallah, just ameen. Okay, we don't say inshallah for du'as. Okay, so you say ahadukum. Then we move on to ayakula. Now here you have a noon sakin followed by the letter ya. We have seen this, I think, at least once before, where you have a noon sakin followed by the letter ya. This rule is an idgham rule. I'm going to give you 1 or 2 seconds just to try and remind yourself. Do you know what kind of idgham is it? Is it kamil or naqis? Is it with gunna, without gunna? Think to yourself, say it out loud. Okay, let's see. So this would be, now, one clue that I did mention in a previous session was that if the letter after has a shadda, that's your clue that you have idgham kamil. So the letter after the noon is the ya, and there is no shadda here. So that's kind of like your clue that it's not idgham kamil, it's idgham naqis. It's the incomplete. Naqis means when something is incomplete or broken, not fully there. Okay, idgham naqis. And this is bi ghunna, which means that it will have a ghunna with it. Okay. Remember, what we said here was for the idgham, the noon is trying to. Let me just get rid of that circle. The noon is trying to merge and become a copy of the ya, but because it's an incomplete merge, it's not going. It can't fully become a ya, and so what happens instead is that we end up pronouncing a bit of both. We pronounce some of the noon and we pronounce some of the ya at the same time. So the way that you pronounce the noon is, remember, the ghunna. So you're relying on the sound going through the nasal cavity. So you're going that kind of sound. But the tongue is at the position of the ya. Okay, as you do that ghunna, as the sound is going through the nasal cavity, your tongue is in the position of the ya, and the makhraj of the ya is the middle of the tongue. The middle of the tongue is raised. Okay, so it kind of becomes like that kind of shape where the middle of the tongue kind of goes up. It doesn't touch the top, it doesn't touch the upper palate, but it raises close to it. Okay, but you're not touching the upper palate. That's quite important because sometimes people try to touch the upper palate and you end up not pronouncing it correctly. So you're very close to the upper palate. So the middle of the tongue is raised. And so what you're doing is you're pronouncing the noon and the ya at the same time. So it should sound like this. Ayya, ayya, ay. Remember, if I just do the ghunna on its own, just the noon without the ya, then it sounds like this. See, that sounds different, right? But when I say the ya at the same time, then it's different. Then it's ayya, ayya. Okay, so that's what you want to do with the idgham naqis here. And then straight after that, the ya is joined with the hamza, and you have to do that sharp stopping of the sound because of the shidda quality or that the hamza has, and the shidda, by the shidda quality, shidda actually means you stop the sound of your voice. Okay, so we say ayya, ayya. Remember, all you're doing is you're cutting off the sound, but you're not squeezing anything in the throat. Nothing should be tightening or tensing or squeezing. Okay, you're just shutting off the sound. It's like the vocal cords just close off, right? You just stop the sound of your voice. Ayya, kula, ayya, kula. So you could try that for me, Sister Salma.
أن يأكل.
Yes. The only thing I'd like you to do now is when you say the idgham, mashallah, is very nice. The hamza is good. What I'd like you to work on is when you say the ya, because it's ya, fatha, ya, but not ya. So you're kind of making it slightly heavier. Ain ya, like almost like that. Ain ya, ya. So you want to say ya, ya, kula. Ain ya, kula.
أن يأكل. أن يأكل.
It's going to take what I'd like you to try is saying it on its own. So ya, fatha, ya.
يا فتايا.
So the way you say ya, the way your mouth opens, ya, keep that. Ya, let that movement still come down. Because remember, to shut off the sound, when you get to the hamza and you get to the throat, again, it doesn't really, because it's just shutting off the sound, you don't need to worry about your mouth coming back to sort of default position. You can say ya and then shut the sound off. Ya, kula.
يأكل.
That's much better. Yes, barakallahu fiki. Stick with that. MashaAllah, good. Alhamdulillah. So moving on, we then have the word lahma, the lam joined with the ha. The ha is a rakhawa letter. I'm not sure if we've seen the ha as a rakhawa letter before. It's one of the ones we keep running. So we've come back to the same ha from the middle of the throat. Lahma, lahma. Okay, so what happens once you get to the throat and you do you're not squeezing too hard, it's just a very gentle squeeze. Once you get there, you keep it running. Lahma, lahma. Okay, you let it run. Okay, that's the rakhawa quality. Lahma. After now, because you hold the ha and you say lah and you let it run, you just have to be careful that you then don't follow it through and then start prolonging the meme as well, because the meme here is only one count. So you prolong the ha, but with the meme, you pronounce it for one count and then you move on to the hamza. I don't want to do an arrow like that because I do those arrows when I'm joining. Okay, so we say lahma'a, lahma'a. Okay, you go straight to the hamza that's coming up next. Okay, akhihi. Now this ha is from the top of the throat. Remember the dot at the top. So the dot at the top, so it comes from the top of the throat. Akhihi. Now this ha has a kasra. Now for those of you who have already learned about the levels of heaviness, we know that the kasra is the lowest level of heaviness. Okay, it's the least heaviest. So we don't need to worry about saying hui, hui, hui. You see this trying to make it too heavy? It comes a little bit more naturally. Akhihi, akhihi. Okay, so you don't need to try to exaggerate that. Let it come naturally. And we don't need to worry about making it overly heavy, inshallah. So we say akhihi. Now, after the two count, because of the madya, after the mad tabi'i, we move on to the ha, and this is one count. Akhihi, akhihi. So you've got to really think about here, because you prolong the khi, and then you have another throat letter, and you're moving to the bottom. Akhihi, akhihi, he. At the end, it's just he. Be careful not to stop pronouncing the same ha that you pronounced before. Be careful not to make that one the same one that you say at the end. Okay, you've got to consciously be thinking about where you're going with this one. Okay, let's try these two words, Auntie. Lahma akhihi.
Lahma akhi. Lahma akhihi.
Good. Just this last ha, Auntie, it can be a little bit clearer. So just make sure after saying akhi, think about you going straight to the bottom of the throat and you're just pronouncing a simple he. Just like, for example, in English, we say he went to the shop, he, right? I want that comfortable, relaxed he at the end. Akhihi.
Akhihi.
Yes, mashallah, good. Allah bless you, good, alhamdulillah. Okay, then we have the word mayta. Okay, we have the word mayta. Now this ya is known as a lean ya. Whenever it's a mad ya, like we see here, we can see that we've got the ya, but before it is a kasra. Under these conditions, the ya is then called a mad ya. But the one that we're seeing here in Maida, we have the ya, but it's preceded by a fatha. In this case, this ya is called a lean ya, okay, or a soft, lean means soft, okay, so we're pronouncing the ya softly. Here, what you have to do is, this is the one where you're saying ma, may, not may, meta. Some people pronounce it as meta, not may. You have to pronounce, but even though they are joint, even though the ya is joint to the mim, we are still pronouncing ma, and then we're pronouncing a joint e sound. Ma, may, meta. Okay, if you try that for me, Sister Humera.
Maita.
Good, alhamdulillah. Good, mashallah. The lean is good, mashallah, alhamdulillah. And with the ya, of course, just another reminder that it is a rakhawa letter, which means, yes, we don't have to worry about cutting it short. You can let it run before you move on to the ta. Maita. Okay. Now we have a rule coming up again that we have seen definitely more than once. We have a double, we have a tanween, and we have the letter fa after it. This rule is I'll give you a moment just to think of it, just in case you need a moment. Think about what do you think the name of this rule was? Can you remember? Say it out loud if you can. Even if you can remember one of the names and you can't remember the full name, see if you can, because the exercise of you forcing yourself to think about this will help the names of the rule to consolidate in your mind, inshallah. So yes, this is actually an ikhfa haqiqi. Ikhfa haqiqi. And because the letter fa is a light letter after it, we say that it has a light gunna. The gunna will sound light. Okay. Remember with this one, with the ikhfa means to hide. I think in Urdu they have a word khafa, something like this. Which also means to hide. So ikhfa means when you're going to hide, and in this case, what we're doing is we're trying to hide the noon sound. So the noon that you hear in when you say maytan, this noon that you hear right at the end, maytan, that noon is what you're trying to hide. How are we hiding it? You're not letting the tongue go to the position or the makhraj of the noon. Instead, the sound goes through the nasal cavity. That's your hidden element. So you're trying to hide the noon because you've got rid of some part of it. Okay. And then what are you doing? You're getting ready and preparing your mouth for the pronunciation of the letter fa. So you're saying Maida. Remember I said this is the one where it's hard for you to tell because it looks like I'm touching the teeth. It's very difficult to sort of because the lip kind of comes up and it just gets covered, so it looks like I'm touching. But I'm not saying Maida. See, that would be me touching, but I'm not touching the makhraj of the fa. I'm just very close to it, so it should sound like this: Maida fa. And then after I finish the Maida, I'm so close to the fa, but I then press when I want to say the fa part. Okay, Maida fakarihtumu. So here, for the last part, we have fa, ka, and remember to get this kaf makhraj right. We don't want to be saying fa, for example, fa qa or fa qa, something close to the qaf is fa ka, fa ka, and then we have the li. Make sure we have the kasra, the proper e in the fakari, fakarih. Fakarih. The ra is joined to the ha. The ha is a rakhawa letter. It's one of the ones that we keep running. So we don't say fakarihtumu. We say fakarihtu. You keep the ha running and then you smoothly go on to the da. So this is where you kind of like need to a good control of your breath here. Okay. Tumu, just make sure that your lips stay circled for both of these. Tumu. You don't want to be saying tomu. Fakarih tomu. Tomu is incorrect, right? You want to say, remember both dhammas should sound as oo. They should be equal. Fakarih tomu. Fakarih tumu. So you prolong the meme. This is for those of you that know, if we're stopping on this word, which we are saying fakarihtumu, this will become our mad'arid lis-sukun. It's 2, 4, or 6 counts when stopping, okay? And this is really, I mentioned the rule for those of you that are already familiar with it, okay? So for those of you that are new, I don't want to give you too much terminology, so I'm not going to be giving you, I'm not writing down that name but it is prolonged. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. And once you finish that mud, the mu, then you add the ha sakina at the end. And the ha sakina is also rahawa. So again, we're going to keep it running because we are pronouncing it with a jazm or a sukoon when we stop. Okay, so this we will pronounce as فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Auntie, if you'd like to have a go at that. Oh, Auntie's not available. Okay, Sister Humaira, if you'd like to have a go at that.
فكرهتموه.
Good. So notice, because we have two has here, they're drawn slightly differently, but these are essentially this ha and this ha are still the same, and they still come from the same place. It's just sometimes they're written slightly differently, but they are essentially the same ha from the same place. And they both have a sukoon or a jazm on them, especially if we stop here. Okay, so the timing for both has should be the same. So however long I spend on this first ha is the same amount of time I spend on this last ha. Okay, let's try. Mashallah, that was good, Sister Humaira. Auntie Nasreen, if you'd like to try it, because I know you're back now. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ.
فكرهتموه.
That was good, mashallah. Just that kasra, Auntie, fakari. I heard fakari. So fakari. Just making sure you get the E sound in there. Fakarihtumu.
فكرهتموه.
Okay, so when you try and concentrate on the kasra, you're kind of starting to lose the ha. Your ha was much better in the first one. I don't want you to lose the makhraj of the ha, so I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to move on, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan, Auntie. Okay, let's try saying this part, and let me just tidy this up so everyone can see the words that we are reciting. So let's get rid of this. There we go. Right. Okay. So if I can get Sister Humaira, if you can recite this for me, please. أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا.
أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا. Sorry.
Good. You fixed your ha, mashallah. So alhamdulillah, good. Mashallah, generally your letters are very, very good. It's just that hamza. And actually, when you said this hamza, this one was fine.
I have
So
been practicing.
yes, this one was good. The first was this one here, ayuhibbu ahadukum. These ones were not the right sound. But this one, when you said this one was good, mashallah. May Allah make it easy for you to be consistent and apply this same one that you just read to all of them. So we're getting there, alhamdulillah, progress, alhamdulillah. Okay, let's finish this part off. So, لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه.
لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه.
Yeah, so just the ikhfa can be lighter. So remember, no part of the tongue should be touching the upper palate. Maita fa. And also remember your fa, you're not pressing on the fa. It's just close to the teeth, right? Maita fa. Just try that for now.
ميتا ف.
Better. Oh, I think the reason it's becoming a bit heavy is, remember we were discussing the ta and using a narrower part of the ta and making it light. You're saying made da. I don't want the da. Remember, your tongue shouldn't be pressing against the teeth when you pronounce the da. It's the gums behind the upper two teeth, right? Made da fa.
ميتا ف.
It's a little bit better. Let's keep working on this, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Okay. Right. I know that I have said in the past, I have mentioned about talking about the ra. And we do have some longer ayat, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get an opportunity to pronounce the ra. So actually, I'm going to squeeze it in now. Okay. So when is the ra heavy and when is the ra light? Okay. So I'm not going to give you all the details. It is quite a big topic, but I'm going to give you the basic details, right? So the way that I like to remember it is, if there's anything on top of the ra, then it is heavy. So for example, if you have a ra with a fatha at the top, then it's heavy. So I'm just going to write heavy here. Okay. If the ra has a dhamma or a pesh at the top, it's also heavy. So this is going to be your heavy. Actually, let me do a bit closer because I can squeeze a bit more in. Okay, so we have here the ra with the fatha or the ra with the dhamma. Okay, for the light ra, is if there's anything at the bottom. If the ra has a kasra, then the ra is light. So at the top we say ra or ru, but at the bottom we say ri, nice and light. Ri, not ri, ri. This is heavy. Ri, nice and light. The other opposite. Now we know that you're not always going to see ra with a haraka on it. So not always mutahadik. It doesn't always have a fatha, dhamma, kasra, or a zabar zir pesh on it, right? So what do we do in this case? Sometimes you'll see a ra with a sukoon. Okay. In this case, you apply the same rule and you check the letter before the ra. Okay. If the letter before has something at the top, okay. If the letter before has a fatha or a dhamma, then the ra will be heavy. Okay. So for example, we could say ar or you say ur. Okay. The ra will be heavy. And the same goes for the light ra. If the ra has a sukoon on it and the letter before has something underneath, like a kasra, then we say il. We don't say ir. We don't make it heavy. Il is light. Okay. And then the final case is sometimes you will find that you have the letter ra with a sukoon and the letter before it will also have a sukoon. And then you're like, oh, well, now what do I do? Then you just keep moving along and you look at the letter before that one and you see what that's got. If that has something at the top, like a fatha or a dhamma, then the ra is heavy. And a really easy example is, for example, the word asr. Okay, in Surah Al-Asr, we have wal-asri. Okay, it has a kasra. But if we stop, we are reading it with a sukoon. And therefore, you're seeing two sukoons here together. So you check the letter before. It has a fatha, which is the same as this rule. Therefore, we pronounce the ra heavy. We say wal-asr. The ra is heavy in that case. Okay. That was very quick. So also with the ra, when it is light, if it has a sukoon, if the letter has a sukoon before that one, you move to the letter before that one. And if that one has a kasra, then the ra will be light. And a very easy example is if you look at the word khabir. Okay, you have khabir. So for example, khabirun. If you are stopping, you are not pronouncing the dhammatain, you're pronouncing it with a sukoon. And then you check the letter before. The letter before here is the letter ya. It has nothing on it, so we know it has a sukoon. So we move to the letter before that. It's the letter ba, and it has a kasra. So we know that we are going to say khabir. We will not say khabir and make it heavy. Okay, so it's a light one. This is a very basic formula. There are special words that can be read sometimes heavy, sometimes light. There are other cases that also need to be considered. But this, inshallah, is enough for you, especially for those of you that are beginners. This is enough for you to think about and to start to apply, inshallah. Okay, let's move on to the ending of the ayah. So you can see in the word fakarihtumu, we had the ra with the kasra. So we know that it is read light. We say fakari. No, we don't say fakari, ri. We don't try to make it heavy. Fakari. Okay, the last part, wattaqullah. Watta. We've talked about the ta. When the ta is joint, especially when it is mushaddad, the sound stops, but you do not hear the hums. You don't hear the breath. We don't say watta. We say watta. Watta. Again, hold the makhraj. When you let go, you pronounce the fatha or the zabar on it. Watta. Wattaqullah. We have the name of Allah here. It has the lambs. When so it is only in the name of Allah that we think about the lamb being heavy or light. So what do? We check the letter before. We are going to read the qaf. It has a dhamma. Therefore, these lambs will be heavy. Wattaqullah. If you could try that for me, Sister Salma.
Wattaqullah.
Good, mashallah. And I heard the rakhawa of the ha at the end as well, mashallah. Good. Then we have the word inna Allah. Now here you have to be careful. We have the name of Allah again. We have the name of Allah and we need to think about whether the lambs are heavy. We check the letter before. Yes, it is fatha, so these lambs in the name of Allah will be heavy. Again, what we have to be careful of this time is, unlike the first part that we just read, wattaqullah, the lambs in the name of Allah were preceded by a heavy qaf. Okay, but in the word inna Allah, they are preceded by a light noon. So we have seen this before. You want to just make sure you don't say inna Allah, inna. You want to say inna, and then move to the heavy lambs. Inna Allah. Okay, Inna Allah. Okay, so we say Inna Allah. And then we have the word Tawwabur Rahim. The waw mushaddad, for those of you that are a little bit more along your journey of the Tajweed, the waw mushaddad and the ya mushaddad always have nabar. Okay, we always apply the nabar here. So we don't say tawwa, tawwa. We say tawwa, tawwa. We join, as we emphasize the part where we join the ta with the waw, taw, this part. And we raise our voice a little bit. We emphasize that bit. So you'll notice that you speed the joining a little bit. You don't say taw, you say taw, taw. But notice once you've joined, you don't stop pronouncing the wow. You keep the wow running because it's rahawa. So you say taw, taw. Can you see how I'm keeping the wow going? You need to do that. Tawa, tawa. At no point does my sound stop. Tawwabur Rahim. If you try that, Sister Salma.
Tawwabur Rahim.
Good, mashallah. Good. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan. Okay, we'll just get rid of all these markings. Okay, let's go from the top. Inshallah, Sister Zuleika, if you'd like to join me for this part. أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا.
أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا.
Okay, if you could just try أن يأكل.
أن يأكل.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're doing something called imala for the ya. So you are trying to make sure that you pronounce it light, but it's gone a little bit too much. So instead of saying ya, I'm hearing ya, kula, right? So keeping that fatha nice and straight. Ya kula.
يأكل.
There you go, mashallah, barakallah fiki. Good, alhamdulillah. Let's finish this part. لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه.
لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه.
Okay, so just for your ikhfa here, it sounded like some part of your tongue was touching the upper palate. So just making sure that nothing is touching the way is nice and clear, and you're just close to the fa. ميتا fa.
ميتا ف.
Yes, this is better, mashallah, good. And then just one other thing is when you stop on the ha, you want to move away, because when you say to move, your lips are still circled as you do the mud, right? But when you get to the ha sakina, the ha we know is from the throat. We are not pronouncing the dhamma, so we need to move away from that, from the circle shape, because otherwise the ha will sound different. If you keep the lips, I'll say it both times. Sorry, I have gone over a little bit over time, so I'm just going to try and finish this quickly now. If you keep the lips circled, I'll say it both times. So the first time, watch my lips, I'll keep it circled. The first time is going to be the wrong way. Listen to the sound of the ha. And then I'll say it the second time where I move away from the circle, and then listen out for the ha again. The last ha I'm talking about, okay? For those of you at home. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Hear the difference? The ha becomes lighter. So I want you to move away from the circling of the lips. We'll do that again. So repeat after me, please. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ.
فكرهتموه.
Yes, a little bit. It's still a little bit on the heavy side. Let's try it one more time. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ.
فكرهتموه.
Yes, I still feel like, are your lips coming back to the proper rested position at the end?
Yeah, they are coming back, but I don't know if it's making a difference to the
Yeah,
ha.
try it the old way again. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ.
فكرهتموه.
Yes, okay. And now let's try the lighter way. فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ.
فكرهتموه.
Yes, this was better. This was better. This was better. Jazakallah khairan. Let's finish the ayah off, inshallah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ.
واتقوا الله.
Good. إِنَّ اللَّهَ تَوَّابٌ رَحِيمٌ.
إن الله تواب رحيم. Sorry. إن الله تواب رحيم.
Jazakumullahu khairan, barakallahu fiki. Good, alhamdulillah. Just practice the ha. The other thing I want you to think about, when you think about the ha, it could be sometimes, even though you're doing the right thing with your lips, the ha can sometimes become heavy because something's going on with the back of the tongue. So the back of the tongue, as you're pronouncing the ha, may be pushing back slightly or slightly raised. So just maybe, inshallah, check yourself. I'm so sorry, I can't check today. I've already gone over time.
No,
So we'll
that's
stop
fine.
there, inshallah. Okay, please stay with us. Inshallah, in a few moments, Sister Zuleika will be doing the tafsir of this ayah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.